evening, everybody. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt. We are Graveyard Tales, and we talk about haunted places, UAP sightings, cryptid encounters, weird mysteries, and we do it all with a humorous look at all of these things. We have been rated in the top 3 of paranormal comedy podcasts.
That's right. And you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Rumble, and Audible. And you can follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and you can join our Facebook group. It's a lot of fun in the Facebook group. See you soon.
Welcome back to Supernatural Japan, the podcast that guides you through the shadows of history, true crime, and folklore in the land of the rising sun. I'm your host, Kevin O'Shea. Tonight's episode is a haunting journey back to 1906 to a quiet fishing town on the Sea of Japan. A blizzard sealed the town in silence, and into that silence came a killer, wrapped in a strange, luxurious blue blanket, who would commit one of the most chilling, inexplicable, and ultimately unsolved mass murders in modern Japanese history. This is the story of the Blue Blanket Butcher, Aoi Mōfu no Satsujinsha, a faceless stranger who left no footprints, no clear motive, and no name. A ghost in a storm. February 11th, 1906, Mikuni Town, Fukui Prefecture. A snowstorm had descended on the coastal town of Mikuni. Then a quiet port with little more than fishing boats and rice shops lining its narrow lanes. The wind howled across the Sea of Japan, blanketing homes and silencing the streets. Sometime around 8 p.m., a knock came at the door of Kaga Murakichi, a respected dry goods merchant. Standing at the doorway was a man wrapped entirely in a striking blue wool blanket, a rare, expensive item in rural Japan at the time. His face was hidden beneath layers of cloth, a towel wrapped around his head, a hood pulled low. He appeared hunched, slow, and anxious. In a low, muffled voice, the man claimed that Murakichi's younger brother had collapsed from a sudden illness and was near death at a nearby residence. He begged Murakichi to come at once. Trusting the stranger, Murakichi hurried, dressed, and followed the man out into the swirling snow. He told his wife and mother he'd return shortly. He never did. Roughly 2 hours later, the blue-blanketed stranger returned. Again he knocked. This time, he told Kaga's elderly mother, age 59, that her son was calling for her. Unable to speak, but gesturing and clearly near death. Reluctantly, she left the house, bundled against the cold, and followed him into the dark. An hour after that, the stranger returned a third time. He now claimed that Kaga's 25-year-old wife was urgently needed. By this point, the household was gripped with confusion and fear, but the man's story remained consistent and persuasive. It wasn't until the fourth visit that something changed. This time, he asked to take the family's 2-year-old child, claiming that the others were crying out for the child. But the family's nanny, a teenage servant named Mio Asai, refused. She said the man's behavior had shifted. He was impatient, aggressive. His story began to contradict earlier details. Asai, terrified, clutched the child and refused to open the door further. The man left in silence, and he never came back. The next morning, just after dawn, a local carpenter found a disturbing scene on the Shimbo Bridge, a small wooden structure just outside of town. There was a large patch of frozen blood on the boards of the bridge, so much that investigators would later conclude that more than one person had been killed there. Nearby, deep red stains in the snow suggested at least one body had been dragged towards the riverbank. A search party was quickly organized. Later, that same day, a small fishing boat was found adrift downstream. Inside was the body of Kaga's wife, wrapped in a blanket, her skull brutally caved in, most likely by an axe. 2 days later, the body of Kaga's mother was recovered from the mouth of the river, bloated and badly decomposed by the icy current. Her wounds matched those of her daughter-in-law. But Kaga Murakichi himself, the man who had first followed the killer into the storm, was never found. Only a blood-stained hairpin, later identified as belonging to him, was recovered from the river's edge. Police from the Fukui Prefectural Office launched a massive manhunt, for the time, unprecedented in scale. Every traveler leaving Mikuni that night was interviewed. Inns and hot spring lodges were searched. The local army garrison was questioned. Newspapers across the country carried drawings of the suspect based on Mio Asai's limited description. Here is what investigators believed. The killer was familiar with the Kaga family, at least enough to know the names of Murakichi's relatives and fabricate stories convincing enough to fool them. He had some local knowledge. He used the snowstorm and the deserted bridge as cover and knew the route along the river. The murder weapon was most likely a small axe or hatchet, though it was never recovered. And no valuables were taken. Robbery was ruled out. One theory posited that the killer may have held a grudge against Kaga Murakichi, perhaps over business deals or personal betrayal, but no motive was ever proven. Then, in 1926, 20 years after the murders, a drifter named Nisaburo Tanemoto was arrested for another crime and reportedly confessed to being the Blue Blanket Butcher. His confession, however, didn't match the details of the crime. He claimed to have killed for money, but again, nothing was stolen. Witnesses placed him hundreds of kilometers away at the time. He was dismissed as a liar seeking attention. And then silence. When the statute of limitations actually expired in 1921, the case officially closed, and no one was ever charged. No deathbed confessions, no more leads. What do you do with a story like this? A tragedy without justice. You bury it. You whisper about it. And eventually, it becomes something else. Locals claim that on snowy nights, when the wind howls like it did in 1906, they see a figure wrapped in a blue blanket, standing by the remains of the Shimbo Bridge. Others say they've heard cries from the riverbank, not screams, but desperate voices calling names. Murakichi, Kaoru, Kichi. Children were warned for generations to never follow a stranger, especially one who comes during a storm. And certainly not one dressed in a blue blanket. A small Jizo shrine was later erected near the area where the boat was found. It wasn't listed on any map, and no priest claimed responsibility for it. Locals simply said it was for the restless ones. Even in recent years, hikers and amateur ghost hunters have reported strange activity, sudden cold spots, malfunctioning cameras, and recordings filled with whispers and static. Some believe the killer's soul never left. Others say the victims still wander, trying to find their way home. The Blue Blanket Butcher case sent shockwaves through Meiji-era Japan. It was one of the first widely reported mass murders in a time of rapid modernization. Newspapers in Tokyo and Osaka covered the case obsessively. The crime exposed vulnerabilities in the rural justice system. It also fed anxieties about urban anonymity, stranger danger, and the eroding trust in traditional communities. Writers, especially in the Taishu Bungaku, popular literature scene, seized on the story. The killer's unique appearance, a blue blanket, a hidden face, became an icon in mystery stories and even early pulp horror manga. Even the word geto, a transliteration of the English word blanket, gained a darker connotation. A cozy object, now twisted into the disguise of a murderer. To this day, the murders in Mikuni remain one of Japan's most unnerving unsolved crimes. The killer came cloaked in snow, led 3 people to their deaths, and disappeared without a trace. Was it a grudge? A ritual? A deranged mind? Or something else entirely? Whatever the truth, the story of the Blue Blanket Butcher has never truly gone cold, because some stories stay with us, not just as facts, but as phantoms. So share your thoughts about this story with us at Supernatural Japan. You can email us at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com. Now, if you enjoyed this episode of Supernatural Japan, please leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to us and leave an amazing review. Great ratings and great reviews are ways to get us noticed. Now, please also share Supernatural Japan with your family and friends if they're the kind of people that like things spooky. We just need your help to keep the podcast growing. You can also show your support of Supernatural Japan and help us grow by buying us a coffee. And there's a link in the show notes at buymeacoffee.com/BusanKevin. You can help fund the creations, this podcast and other creations that I do. Now, if you have any feedback for the podcast, you have any stories you would like to share, please follow us on social media. You can see pictures of this case, the Blue Blanket Butcher, the areas, the different places I talked about in this episode over on Instagram at Supernatural Japan. You can follow me, Kevin O'Shea, over on Blue Sky and X at Mad for Maple. Again, you can email the podcast at any time at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com. And we have a Facebook group. If that's your thing, come on over. We've got some great people hanging out in that space over at facebook.com/supernaturaljapan. All of these links are in the show notes down below. Well, this has been Supernatural Japan. I'm Kevin O'Shea. Stay curious and stay safe. And if someone knocks on your door during a snowstorm, maybe don't answer.